mic on? My name is Natalie Dielman. I'm the programming coordinator here at Way Library. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get started, I do want to tell you about a couple of upcoming programs. Our spring program guide, if you're in 43551, will be hitting your mailboxes probably around February 19th. We have lots of cool spring programming coming up, including a lot of whale-based programming, because local artist Rob Vanetveldt will be exhibiting his giant paintings of whales starting at the end of February. So we're going to read Moby Dick. We're going to have a BGSU student come and talk about Moby Dick the opera, and lots of cool stuff like that. And then one other thing that you may have missed, because it's virtual, it's not a live program, we're part of the Library Speakers Consortium now. You can access that from our website, and they have live streams virtual with authors. So like T.J. Klune, Jodi Picoult, so really famous authors talking about their works. And we are part of the archive as well, so if there's someone that you missed, you can go back and watch those. So it's really cool. When you register, you can submit questions and they may ask the author. So pretty cool thing. But tonight we're going to talk about Yellowstone National Park with Anna. And I'm going to hand it over to Craig Spicer from Wood County Parks.
Thank you. So we're seeing a lot of repeat faces, which we love to see, but you still have to sit through my little spiel at the beginning again. Sorry, guys. Don't worry about it. So I just get it. It's fine. Love seeing you. So again, my name is Craig Spicer. I'm with the Wood County Park District. I'm a program naturalist with Wood County, and I do a lot of all sorts of stuff, including lead most of our adventure programs. So bringing people in to talk about their adventures seemed like a very natural choice. This is our third, technically, official season of Base Camp Stories Speaker Series. And the real premise of it is to bring people who call Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan their home to talk to you, fellow Northwest Ohio and Northeast Michigan people, about adventures that take them far and wide, but to remind you that to get started on your own adventure, you don't have to go very far. You can get involved with any local group around here. Very passionate people are around to help get you started on things, whether it's kayaking or hiking or climbing, or you can join Wood County Parks for one of our programs, and we'd love to get your feet wet, your foot out the door, to start in your own adventure, maybe to take you to where Anna has gone. But I don't want to steal too much thunder from Anna. Anna Stuart is actually our historic farm coordinator at Carter Historic Farm, just northeast of Bowling Green. It's an 80-acre farm. They use all Depression-era technology and techniques for farming. It's really fascinating stuff. They have amazing staff there, and they'd love to share with you all sorts of things about how Northwest Ohio was functioning during the Great Depression on a farm. Also, she manages the Zimmerman Schoolhouse. It is a one-room schoolhouse that has been restored to look as original as possible. That's in the same location. But Anna doesn't stay down on the farm very much. She's a big-time, you like that, don't you? She's a big-time adventurer, and I can't wait to hear about one of my favorite national parks. It is the first, it is the best. It is Yellowstone National Park, but very specially in winter, which not very many people get to see, which I'm sure is why you're here. So, everybody please give it up for Anna Stuart.
Hello. So Craig did a great introduction. I am usually down on the farm, but you don't work for parks without having really a background in outdoorsmanship growing up. So my mom raised me in the woods, essentially. A joke, my siblings and I are feral children. So, of course, in my time that I have to adventure, I prefer to do so outdoors. A little bit of background information. So, West Yellowstone and other large portions of Yellowstone National Park are closed to the public during the winter, other than specific snowmobile tours that have a certain certificate and licensure. However, I lucked out. I'm not the only one in my family who works in parks, and my brother-in-law was working in Yellowstone National Park at the time, stayed there over winter, so I got to go when there were less crowds. So, just so you know what we're getting into, first I'll kind of touch on preparing to go in the winter, how we got there, then traveling and the actual logistics of traveling there during the winter time, and then this is where most of your pictures are going to come in. It's just Yellowstone in the winter and everything we saw and did. So, the trip out. First, we had to pack, but we didn't have to pack a lot because we were staying in the apartment with my brother and sister-in-law, so I didn't need to bring all the food or anything else. We were able to just take carry-on packs, and that was it. I made sure to bring my waterproof, comfortable hiking boots. The man in the picture made sure to bring his brand new work boots that he ended up trading out for another pair from his brother. He thought a great opportunity to break them in. And we also brought many layers because we weren't really sure what the weather was looking like. I made sure I had wool-based layers and nice waterproof snow outerwear. But in reality, we had a lot of snow, but not a lot of cold. So nothing like what we've had the last 2 weeks. I was mostly in like this, but with my wool layers on underneath, and I was pretty happy and even a little too hot sometimes. And like I said, we only brought 2 carry-on size bags in our backpacks. We did fly there because we were not going to make that drive in the amount of time we had. So we went from Columbus to Denver, Colorado, and then we had to fly into Idaho Falls. Still a little ways away. Once we got to Idaho Falls, Joe was still working, so we had to figure out something to do. So you get a general idea of our timeline. We fly into Idaho Falls, sit around at the airport for a bit. Joe, please, we're stranded. Help us. Call Uber and go into town. Hang out there for a bit. Then we go to get groceries. To get groceries closest to the park at a reasonable price, we still had to drive half an hour to the grocery store. And then, to get to West Yellowstone, the town right outside, we had another about hour and a half to 2 hours, and right as we were getting there, there was a bit of a snow event beginning. So the roads, not amazing, late night, took some time. And then to travel into Madison Junction, which was in the park where the ranger apartments were and the winter employee apartments were, we still had to travel by snowmobile in a little pull-along that you will see pictures of. And that was probably about 40 minutes to an hour. So from the airport to our bed, just travel alone was about 4 hours. So, like I said, we were stranded in Idaho Falls for a while, which turns out is not that bad. I suggest flying into there if you ever need to. They have a lot of cool stuff. They have a sister city in Japan. They have some really cool water turbines. They're like one of the first cities that really implemented water turbines. My husband's an engineer. I'm a general nerd. So we spent a lot of time reading the history on that and reading, how they function. And it was honestly like a really nice town. You could, get a drink, get a Yellowstone tattoo if you felt like it on the whim, I'm sure. So we spent some time there. And this is how we traveled through the park. So after driving in, We parked at one of their stations right at West Yellowstone, and we had to transfer all of our groceries and our travel bags into this pod and put ourselves in it as well. And then my brother-in-law spent the time on the snowmobile caddying us around. I'm pretty sure, yes, okay. So this kind of gives you a general idea. So I'm in the back seat, Jim's in the front seat. So it's just a little nose area, and then behind me, this middle picture is darker than expected. I was in the front seat, back seat, we're right there. Not a lot of space. Wasn't bad. Got warm, so that was nice. And it was just on those little sleds, and it was a fairly smooth ride. About probably like once we got to like Sunday or so, my sister-in-law and I rode in it, and things had melted, then froze over, so it was a much bumpier ride. And we did hit a bump so hard, the shock in the front blew out, and we both hit our heads on the roof. It was a whole thing, but it was still probably the best way. I honestly was looking at all those people on those snowmobile tours, and I was like, hey, I got the better deal, guys. You have fun, but I'm living life. So now we're in Yellowstone. We finally made it, and we're gonna go through day by day on what I did. So day one, Jim and I had obviously spent the day before traveling. We had left our house probably like, I think 4:30 a.m. So we were gonna chill. And like I said the night before, a snow event had come. So these are drifts. Jim burrowed all the way in to one of the drifts enough that he, a grown 5'4" man, was able to crawl all the way through. The picture, I wonder if this worked. Well, I don't think I actually have a pointer on here. Me down there in the middle, I'm literally just sitting like this. This is as far down as I'm down. Oh, wow. I'm all the way, legs are all the way up. I was just sitting there, hanging out, really. I mean, the amount of layers I brought, I could have taken a nap. In fact, at one point, I completely buried myself, and it was fine. I think I took this picture from sitting in that position. The view out the back window was just mountains, trees, and snow. And really not a lot of people were there at this point in the year, so it was quiet. We had the area to goof around in the snow in the backyard by ourselves. My brother and sister-in-law were still working, because I think this was a Friday. They came home, we made pizza, we hung out. You know, it wasn't just a high adventure trip, it was also getting to see family who lives farther away. So day two, also heads up, I should have told you this earlier. I didn't want to take my nice camera with like glass components in case the weather changed rapidly. So most of my pictures were just taken on I have a little like half frame film camera. So I apologize if they're not up to par for projectors, but it's artistic, okay? So day two, we did a lot of running around. We went to the fountain painted pots, which is thermal features, all various pools, essentially. You walk through on a walkway, and there's the pools on either side. The most notable thing is all the signs warning you to not step on the bacteria mat, because you will not be leaving that place, or you will, just not in the same way that you arrived. So this is a bit of a picture over here of the walkway from the other side of a pool. It was a beautiful, snowy wonderland. This is over at Old Faithful. Guys, we had pretty much the whole place to ourselves. Bison were all over the place. We were able to go into the visitor center, went through all the education stuff because, of course, as a parks educator, I gotta check out the education stuff. Not a single person in sight. We got to watch Old Faithful go off from the front row. No one else around. I didn't take pictures. I was living in the moment. Plus, my camera only had 75 pictures, and this was only the second day of being there. So, you know. But it was beautiful. We hiked all around the thermal features there and only ran into a couple cross-country skiers, really. These are more of the hiking around near Old Faithful. The bison picture with the thermal features is actually on the way there. So they were all over the place. Less tourists means more chillin' for them. I have a whole section of bison, don't worry. They're my favorite animal, land animal. So, like I said, it was just really beautiful, and we were able to really take our time, hike slow. Sometimes when you go to those high trafficked places, you feel like you have to get through, but it was not that at all. Day 3, we went into West Yellowstone for church and brunch, which if you remember from that previous slide, it's about an hour to West Yellowstone from the apartment. So woke up early, had to get ready, go into town is kind of a big deal. So we went into town, we ate brunch. Honestly, we were all pretty tired. So we went back to the apartment and ate leftover pizza, watched some TV, and just generally hung out. It was a very relaxed trip, I must say. And of course, saw some views on the way. So day 4, we went to Opal Pool and the other surrounding thermal features in that area. Opal Pool is called such because it's got lots of pretty colors most times of year. When we were there, it was primarily mist because it's so cold out, and then of course these thermal features are throwing off heat. So it was just pretty misty. These two pictures were taken in a parking lot that is just massive. Parks don't put a massive parking lot unless it's usually full. And we had this whole area to ourselves. Not another soul around. It was amazing, which worked out nicely because these boardwalks here, all right, you've got mist, you've got insta cold, you've got all the minerals coming. It was slick. The amount of times you ate it walking up that, you were like, I felt so lucky to just have my then boyfriend, my brother-in-law. No one else had to see that. We were ice skating the whole time. But it was definitely worth it because once you got up there, it was like, a really weird outdoor cold sauna experience. Right? And again, not a single human around. It really made a lot of discussions were had about how did the people who initially went west feel about this, people who came across this the first time. How many people fell in before they figured out maybe we shouldn't step there? And it's just kind of fun to muse about that and kind of consider how would we react if we came across that. I personally probably would have been like, let's throw some laundry in it and see what happens. These are more pictures out there. Here you can kind of see some of the bacteria mats forming all along one of the pools. You would look down, it was like clear to the bottom, and people had dropped hats and other items that they don't really get in and able to retrieve that often because it's deep and it's dangerous. So if your hat flies off, there's a gift shop down the road, you can get another one. And again, those super slick boardwalks, Jim and Joe being a couple goobers after, having to ice skate down the way. So, bison in the park. You would think they would decide to go somewhere a little warmer, a little less snowy, but it is warmer because they seek out those thermal feature areas where grass is still growing, grass is still available, instead of migrating all the way to a lower elevation area with less snow. But this does have an effect on their health. So they're living a great life. Don't worry about them. Don't stop them. But the thermal features have a lot of extra minerals going on in there. And one of them is silica, which comes up in the grass and in the area. And that wears down their teeth. So eventually, they're not eating so good. But they're still living their best lives. Don't you dare go and stop them from living in their little happy, warm world. So they were all over the joint. The next several slides are just bison, really. Like I said, they're my favorite land animal, so everyone made sure to stop and let us see them. And being able to travel in that little pod meant that anytime we saw them, we were fairly, we were far away, we kept a good distance, but we were still able to get pictures and take a look at them. These guys were right outside the apartment. We had just gotten back. So this is the road, and then the road that came here is where we were pulling up into the apartment area, and they were just a whole little family moseying by. Didn't care that we were there. Of course, we were talking and, oh, look at that. And they just kept going. So the agricultural educator in me had to share this photograph. Look how happy they are in the snow. Look how thick and happy their, fur is. I put this to remind you that as you're driving around in your Northwest Ohio farm areas and you see cows outside, you see horses with their winter coats on, you see sheep outside, they're fine. If you're cold, they're not cold, don't worry about it. Because just like these guys have adapted to live happily out in the winter snow, you'll see snow piling up on the fur. That means that they are well insulated enough that it is not melting from their body heat. Just like the snow stays on your house, the snow stays on their backs. And they are living their best lives while it's snowing, and there's nobody around to bother them. So this is not with Zoom. So we're riding around on our little pod thing. Joe's on the snowmobile, and he just started slowing down, and Jim and I were like, we're not seeing anything. What's he doing? What's going on? Then we look back, and this guy's walking right up alongside of us, and he just did not care. Really just, he was like, all right, I'm here. Joe, on the other hand, is hanging off the other side of the snowmobile, trying to not scare this massive beast who is right there, and doing a very good job at doing exactly what he is supposed to be doing. But that just goes to show you how bold these animals are. So especially when you go and visit the parks, as much as people tell you to stay away from them, that also might take some effort, because that is their space that you are coexisting in. And they are extremely powerful, extremely large beasts, as you really feel sitting there in a plastic case. And he turns around and looks at you like, what are you doing here? But that is it. I'm glad you got to enjoy a little piece of my vacation. Like I said, it was very relaxed. It was definitely an experience that I will probably never have again, and an experience that a lot of people don't get to have. So are there any questions? Yeah.
So they have to tow you in that thing? There's no driving or anything through there?
Yep, there's no driving. Everything that was going through had was either snowmobiles or these massive tour buses that had, like, yeah, what everyone else is whispering under their breaths. Tracks on them, going through to get anywhere. You wouldn't have been able to drive either. Yeah.
I thought in the beginning you said that West Yellowstone is closed through the winter. How about the rest of the park, the other entrances?
There are, I believe there's other spots that are open that you can get into, and I think somehow you can get into Old Faithful somehow. I'm not really sure how. I think it's still through like a snowmobile tour, but there are portions that don't get as much heavy snow. Yeah. I'm not an expert on that though, so I'm sorry. Any other questions?
Well, snowmobile tour, is that the same as what you were on in a way, that somebody's in a snowmobile
No, so all the snowmobile tours were people on snowmobiles. So they're private companies that have a whole parade of snowmobiles, and they all,
You can rent them.
yeah, you would drive it and you'd be following around like a kindergarten line through the whole park with whoever's leading that tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you able to get into the lodge near Yellowstone, is it?
Yeah, so the one near Old Faithful we went into, we were really looking forward to some ice cream, but they told us wrong time of year, so we got coffee. It was really gorgeous. We didn't, stay there or anything, but we were able to go and walk around. Discovered my new favorite trail mix. That was a perk. So I guess somehow people were getting in and staying at the lodge. Yeah. Sure, cost extra.
Was it your first time?
Yeah, so that was my first time going to Yellowstone. I have hit a lot of the East Coast national parks and everything over on this way, but when I was going to go to Yellowstone last, I got an emergency wisdom tooth removal in Minnesota. So I didn't make it. My mom still made me go to the Badlands. She said, you're gonna be in pain heading back to Ohio, or you're gonna be in pain heading to the Badlands. So I didn't make it. So this time, I kept waiting for something, but I made it. Yeah.
So there were people staying at the lodge then?
Yeah, there were still some people staying, tourists at the lodge, and there were still employees at the lodge and everything too.
What month did you go?
I went in February. I actually went the weekend after Valentine's, last February of 24.
So just a year ago.
Yes, yeah. You're still a long, tough time to remember all the specifics, Yeah.
I went one year and it was the first week of September. They said that was the last week it was open because the snow started.
Yeah.
And I just got lucky. I didn't have reservations. I got right into the camp and everything,
Oh, nice.
right by Yellowstone Lake.
Yeah, it gets, once it starts snowing, it's done.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep going until it melts in March or so? April, May even? Long time, yeah. Oh.
So what were the temperatures while you were?
I wish I could give you a number. My husband and I were literally sitting there while I was making this slideshow going, oh, a year ago, it was a long time. I could just tell you how I was comfortably dressed. It was probably 30s mostly, but very sunny. And since all the snow's there, it's all reflecting back up on you. So it was, like I said, very comfortable. I was sweating in my vest and long sleeve and jeans. Yeah.
Do you know if they cross-country ski?
Yeah, so there's a lot of cross-country skiing. At Old Faithful, we ran into a lot of people who were just cross-country skiing. They have a loop trail there, so people will just go out and do that. We were gonna cross-country ski one day, but then we wanted to not, so we didn't. But it is very popular, and even not in the park, even right outside the park, there's a lot of that too. And you can rent everything there. Yeah.
What other wildlife did you see other than bison?
Real honest, we mostly just saw bison. I think we saw some birds at one point, but I'm no Jim Witter, so I can't tell you what they were. But I think at one point we might have seen a coyote from far, far, far away, but that was it. We didn't. This time of year, pretty much everyone was hunkered down, except for the bison. Yeah.
Did you say that people are able to stay at the Old Faithful Lodge?
I believe so. There were people there, and they have a way to get in. So I'm assuming they're staying, but probably, I think it's at a lower capacity and only certain portions of the lodge.
How long would you like to have stayed?
Well, I'm a homebody, so the 3 to 4 days we were there was great for me. And I think if I had gone in the summer when travel was a little easier, maybe a little longer to hit more spots. But I think if you go for a week, you're golden. Yeah.
Your relative Were they rangers? What do they do in the wintertime?
Yeah, so he's a ranger with the park, and then my sister-in-law would do some like seasonal educational stuff or work outside of the park in that area.
So what does he do? Just like make rounds to see if there's nobody in trouble, or?
Yeah, park ranger-y things. I don't dig too much into the specifics because there's certain jobs that you don't get to ask questions. So he was on that snowmobile out. I know he was out, I think they call it patrol throughout the day. I'm not sure, but.
How long is he there, assigned there?
I think they were there 3 or 4 years. And it's a system where you can go there once you get hired into the park. I think you're essentially there as long as you want to, or unless you have to move to another location. I know there's other weird hiring stuff, so they have now moved to the Smokies to be closer to home. Yeah. Yeah. You look pensive. Do you have a question?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Anna.
Yes, thank you.
So we only have one more talk in this series, and it is on amateur radio and how that hobby can actually help you save lives. Pretty impressive stuff.
And it's my mom.
So thank you very much for being here. If you'd like to check out more programs with us, wcparks.org, more programs at the library, their website. But otherwise, if you have any more questions from Anna, she'll be here for a little bit as we're packing up. But I hope you have a great rest of your night and a safe trip home. Thank you.
Is the video off now?
No, but I will be.